Welcome to the Agent of Wealth podcast with Marc Bautis from Bautis Financial. In this podcast, Marc helps guide you towards financial freedom, ensure you never run out of money, and create a balance in life that prioritizes what is most important to you. Join us for this journey as Marc draws from years of expertise and guest experts to solve the multiple wealth building challenges involved in your financial life.
Welcome back to the Agent of Wealth. This is your host, Marc Bautis. Today I'm joined by a special guest, Ken Rusk. Ken is the founder of Rusk Industries, a best-selling author, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker who achieved Wall Street Journal bestseller status with Blue Collar Cash. Love your work, secure your future, and find happiness for life. He hosts the podcast Comfort, Peace, and Freedom and empowers individuals through his impactful course, The Path to a Successful Life. Ken's unique journey includes appearances on Fox & Friends, Tucker Carlson Tonight, and America's Newsroom. His insights have been featured in Forbes, USA Today, Fox Business, and more. Without formal higher education, Ken's diverse accomplishments include awards like Top Workplaces in Ohio and numerous Franchise of the Year honors. As the founder of Rusk Industries, he collaborates with notable figures and supports charitable organizations. With over 4 decades of experience, Ken continues to inspire through speaking engagements. He's currently working on a book about fostering employee-centric business culture for growth. Ken, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Marc. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm excited to speak to you today about your book, Blue Collar Cash. In the book, you discuss the concept of finding fulfillment and success in blue-collar work. What inspired you to write a book focused on this topic?
It's a long story. I kind of grew up in the whole blue-collar industry myself and still am. I do all types of things, construction. And I guess what I noticed, I started with 6 people in 1986, and now we have over 220, I think. And I think, as you grow like that, you begin, over decades, you begin to see a change in people. And what I mean by that is a change in how prepared they are for the world and how prepared they are for just basic life skills. So I was almost forced to become an involuntary life coach, you know what I mean? Where I don't have any letters after my name. I never went to college. I have no training in coaching whatsoever. But I got really good at getting people to see what they wanted their future to look like. Because if you don't have that basic brochure for your life in front of you, then you tend to lead this if-then life, where life kind of happens to you instead of you happening to life. And that kind of just blossomed into this, multifaceted reason why I thought I should just start writing down some stories, which I did. And 80,000 words later, we had a book, and then we had an editor, and then an agent, and then a publisher, and it just kind of went from there.
So what are some of the key principles or strategies that you outline in the book that can help people in the blue-collar profession? And then what makes it different than, white-collar or any other, type of job?
Well, it's interesting, Marc, because the book's called Blue Collar Cash, but it's really for anybody. And the reason I say that is because the publisher decided they really wanted to hone in on the blue collar side, and that's okay, because it was a space that I grew up in, and they wanted something unique and different, not just another motivational book. So the thing that makes this book so unique is what people have to understand is they really live their lives mainly at the behest of somebody else or some other thing or some other drive or some other social societal norm or expectation. And they never stop to say, wait a minute, I'm in control. I'm in control of my input. I'm in control of my output. I'm in control of the quality of that output. I'm in control of my day, my schedule, my time. I'm in control of my financial gain. So why am I not picturing what I want for myself? And to hell with what everybody else is telling me that I have to do. Why am I not taking control of that? So the book really starts with, if you can draw a picture of what you want your life to look like, and I mean in really precise detail, almost like the cover of a puzzle, okay? You can dump all the pieces on the table you want, but you can't build that puzzle without the cover. At least it would take you a very long time if you didn't know what you were after. And life should be the same way. So I start with the premise, learn how to get really good at using the visual side of your brain. It's free. It requires no training. You just have to sit down and do it. And then get real clear with what you want your life to look like, and then take one of the many paths that there are to getting there. Because in the end, Marc, your grandkids are not going to look at you and say, man, my grandfather had this awesome degree. okay? They're going to say, my grandfather ground out this wonderful life, and this is how he did it. And so how you live your life is really the grand prize here. How good you are at seeing what you want your life to look like and then making that actually personify, making it actually manifest itself, making it actually happen. That's the real game. So for me, it was all about, I'm going to show people this is exactly how to do it, and then you can pick one of the many paths that takes you to get there.
I like that concept of, what do you want your life to look like? I see that, even on my side as a financial advisor, it's one of the things that when we work with someone, we ask them that, what do you want your life to look like on, financial and non-financial side of things? And I find that a lot of times people struggle with that because it's not something they've ever done before. They don't know how to visualize it. Sometimes maybe they get like an exam, they'll have one thing and they can kind of build on that. But what are some tips for the person that really doesn't even know how to begin to answer that question of what they want their life to look like?
This is something that I wish I could teach every person from 25 years old and down, and even older than that. So the Virginia Tech, they did a study. They took 100 people, they put them in the room, and they said, okay, if you have pretty clear goals, raise your hand. Well, sadly, only 20 of the 100 raised their hands, so they dismissed the 80. They kept the 20 behind, and they said, okay, of you 20 that have these goals, how many of you have ever written them down? Only 4 people admitted to writing those goals down. And then they said, okay, they dismissed the 16. They said, of the 4 of you left, how many of you have those goals explicitly posted somewhere where you can see them on a daily basis? 1 person. Okay? They followed those people for 10 years, and that 1 person made 9 times more money in their lifetime than the other group in the study. So I understand why you get that, because people are taught to react to everything. You're supposed to react to the weather. You're supposed to react to social media. You're supposed to react to what society wants you to do. You're supposed to react to, all the things that happen. We tend to learn how to react to things, but we are terrible at teaching people how to proact to things. And it's just like anything else. I mean, you can become a 401k millionaire when you're 19 years old if you do it early enough. But people wait till they're 40 and 50 to start thinking about these things. It's crazy. And it's only because we're not taught that way. So I literally put, I don't want to say the blame, but I put the onus on teachers and parents, because they're really the kind of gatekeeper here for whether or not that person is going to be a productive member of society or going to be a reactive member of society. So to me, it's all about getting people to understand that if-then is no way to live. If I go to high school, if I get good grades, if I get a scholarship, then if I go to college, if I get a degree, and then if that degree gets me a good job, and if that job pays me, well, then I can start living my life. That's completely backwards. I want to know what your then is first, and then the ifs we'll find the way to get there. And it's not always through a higher education. I mean, there's lots of ways to make, especially in the blue collar fields today.
How does that parent or teacher, how can they better nurture that person to be a more productive person in society? Because I think, I'm sure there's some that do it better than others naturally, but is there something that a parent or teacher can do to kind of set someone on the right path?
Yeah, I would rather see them create some sort of ACT or SAT or whatever you call those tests. Am I prepared for life? Okay? Right now, teachers and parents think their trophy is a degree hanging on the wall. I did my job. I birthed my child. I raised my child. I clothed them. I fed them. I sheltered them. I taught them what I could. And now the only way I can look in the mirror and say, you were a good parent, is if I can brag about the fact that my kid has an expensive degree on the wall. Of which, by the way, only 33% of the degree earners in the country today ever use them. Okay? Which means 66% of the degrees out there are just doing nothing, but they're expensive and they were paid for. So we got to get parents to understand that the Holy Grail isn't college. The Holy Grail is my kid prepared for life? Can he or she problem solve? Do they understand financials? Do they understand how to set up a checking account, proper use of a credit card? Do they understand that saving early, and you know this, is the only way to take advantage of all the compounding power that money has? Okay, can they change a tire? Can they plant a tree? Can they fix something that's broken? Those are the kinds of things that I want to see on a test. Because if I've hired 2,300 people in my career, okay, give or take. Those are the questions I ask them. I don't ask them about anything else. Because if you can solve problems, and if you're an independent thinker and you've got motivations and you have a picture of what you want your future to look like, I couldn't hire you fast enough. I don't care what your degree says. And so that's what I would tell parents and teachers. Some of these high schools actually get incentivized for how many people they send off to college. That's crazy, because the colleges have all the power and they have all the money and they have all the influence, and they basically shame parents and teachers into saying, if you don't send your kid to us, he or she's going to be a loser. That's never been true in the history of our country. It really chaps me a little bit that we have this automatic, it's almost like cattle, and they just herd them into that process, whether they're good for college or not, doesn't matter. They'll take your money, they'll give you your useless liberal arts degree, and then when you graduate, they'll never look back and they'll forget your name. Now, having said all that, I'm not anti-college. If you're going to operate on my shoulder so I can get back on the golf course, I want you to know everything there is to know about a knife before you come at me with it, right? Same thing with architecture and engineering and stuff like that, teaching and banking, whatever. But just to send a kid to school because you're supposed to, no, there's a lot of better ways to live your life than that.
I think in the book, you emphasize the significance of personal responsibility and taking ownership of your own career path. Now, obviously, a start to that is goals and what are you trying to do? But then the next step, how does someone take those goals and figure out, well, how do I live my daily life so that I can advance towards those goals? Because, the goals are great, and even writing them down, looking at them, but there has to be some kind of action probably to get to those goals.
Oh, there absolutely has to be, and that's why I changed the word to the path, okay? Because I think goal is one of the most overused words in the English language, okay? Goal, I mean, it can mean so many different things, right? So for me, I took hopes, dreams, wishes, and goals. I threw all that out, and I changed all those words to path, because unless there is a 10, 20, 50, 100-step clear-cut path between you and that eventuality, those things just live in your head like fantasies. It's called the someday club. Yeah, someday I'm going to do that. Well, someday never comes. You know that, and I know that. So I'm a little bit hardcore when it comes to thinking about goals, because if you can't tell me exactly how that goal is going to happen, when is it starting, how much is it going to cost you, how much are you saving per week to get it, who's there with their hand on your shoulder when you fall down, because you're going to fall down, to pick you back up and keep you going. Is it something you really, really, really want, or is it just one of those fantasies? If you can't tell me the mechanics of your goal, I don't even want to hear about it, because everybody has them. But getting back to that 1% category, the 1% people, they have paths to getting these things that are realistic, and they're achievable, and those progressive, and you can see them and feel them, and you're on the path to it, and your confidence grows. The rest of us just live with dreams in our heads, and those things just never come out.
Talk a lot about the importance of lifelong learning and adaptability. Now, if we just focus on lifelong learning, just from our brief conversation here, I'm pretty sure you're not talking about formal getting your master's degree and your doctorate if you're in a blue-collar field. But what should someone in the blue-collar fields look at, or how should they approach lifelong learning?
Well, I think you pair up lifelong learning with being prepared and being aware of the opportunities that are out there. My thought has always been, okay, I'm going to prepare myself to be as good as I need to be at the job that I need to do it, but then I'm going to start being aware of what opportunities are out there that I can advance within. And do I need to pick up different things in order, like certifications or whatever, in order to get myself on the radar of those things? And so when I think about lifelong learning, I think about the experiences that I have, the experiences that people that are mentors of me are having, how they run their companies, how they hire their employees, what are they doing right and what are they doing wrong? Can I shadow someone working for them, knowing I'm going to be my own entrepreneur someday, and I'm going to shadow this guy or gal for 5 years and then I'm going to start my own thing? The lifelong learning is immerse yourself in the experiences that will take you forward, because the bigger your goals, the bigger your paths are, the longer the paths are, the more revenue it's going to require to make those things happen for yourself. And so, in my mind, it's all about just positioning yourself to become aware and available for when those things happen so you can continue moving forward. Because, again, for me, I always have 5 or 6 things in my head that are happening, or I should say in my head and around these walls in my office on paper that are happening 1 month, 6 months, 16 months, 6 years out, 16 years out. And so I need to prepare myself to be aware and available for when those things show themselves.
You mentioned a mentor, and I'm a believer in mentors too. And I guess you also talked about shadowing someone. So I guess that's one way to have a mentor. But are there any other ways that someone can find a mentor or someone that can kind of help them get to that next level, whether it's going out on their own as an entrepreneur or even, going up and when working up different levels that they're trying to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I taught this course that I have with the book. I have a course, and I taught it to some gals that are in prison in Florida. And I just finished my 3rd session with about 20 gals in each class. And one of the things that I said to them is you need to be very, very careful who you pick as a mentor. Because if you're not picking someone else who shares your goals and who's allowing you to risk in a reasonable way, without being too coddling or too conservative or too careful, you really have to be careful. Does that person really love you? Do they really want the best for you? Are they going to allow you to go for it? Or are they going to play it safe and kind of hold you back and keep you, in their arena for one of 2 reasons? Number 1, they don't want you to fail, but number 2, they don't want to see you get success because you're kind of safe in their little world that isn't totally adequate. You know what I mean? Misery loves company. That's why the Somedayers Club in the book is a much bigger club than the Two-Dayers Club, and the members in it are completely different. So I draw that comparison because I remember when I was a little kid and I climbed the high dive, and it was my first time jumping off the high dive. If I didn't have my 3 little buddies down on the ground there looking up at me saying, "Go for it, dude, you got this," I probably would have climbed right down that ladder and never jumped off that diving board. The power of the people that you pick is very, very important, because if you're going to launch off a 15-foot high diving board when you're 6 years old, you're putting a lot of trust and faith in those mentors or those people that you share your goals with. So, and in case of the gals in prison, a lot of the people that they thought were their mentors or their support people are the ones that got them in trouble in first place because they hung around the wrong people. So that's just a really good example of picking the wrong people. So be very careful. Choose people that are bringing you up constantly. It's like playing golf. I'd rather play golf with a guy that's way better than me than a guy that's way worse. Pick those people wisely and allow them to propel you through life. Use their experiences, see what they're doing right and wrong, and just go launch.
Is it a formal process to pick in those people where you kind of like reflect and look and kind of say, all right, these are the people in my network, and I think this person or this person would be good to associate with or be a mentor? Or do you kind of like formally go out and say, all right, I'm going to find myself a mentor and kind of look all over, kind of anywhere for that?
That's a really great question, Mark. I would say this. I would say once you have your brochure done, and I'm talking about a 2x4, poster board with everything that you want your life to look like, then I would sit down and I would say, who could share in my ability to want to do this? Who could support me in my path or my journey doing this? And then I would invite them over and I would say, listen, you are a very special person in my life. I look up to you. I admire what you've done. I think you probably would be interested in me succeeding, like genuinely. So these are the things that I want to bring into my life, and I want you to be there for when I do stumble or trip or fall or get turned around, okay? I do want you to be there to put your hand on my shoulder and say, I believe in you, you believe in you, you believe in these goals, I believe in these goals, let's go do this. I do think it's as formal as you want to make it, but you have to pick these people wisely. And if you don't have anybody in your circle, then maybe there is some formal process to go out and find a mentor professionally. I don't know that, but I just think it's interesting that these people have what they thought was a good mentor and they were let down by them. especially in the people I was teaching. So be very careful who you pick, but share those things with them. And if they ride the ride with you, that's all the better.
What are some of the other things that you include in the course, the path to a successful life, in addition to like finding a mentor? What are some other things involved in it?
One of the things that we all need to do is I think we all need to just clear out our emotions and kind of shed that whole thing. And, I call that section the 5-gallon bucket head, and we use a lot of 5-gallon buckets in our construction here. And, if you think of the anatomy of the human body as a 5-gallon bucket, and it's in the test and it's in the course, it's also in the book. The top gallon of that 5-gallon bucket is where your emotions reside. And the thing about that last gallon is there's no lid on top of it. So it can spill over if you're not careful, if you try to put too many things in there. It's almost like you're standing outside a crowded bar and there's a bouncer and he's letting people in and letting people out. He's trying to make sure that he's balancing the environment inside. The same thing holds true with this. I mean, if you're walking around with anger, you can't have joy. If you're walking around with frustration, you can't have wonder. If you're walking around with jealousy, you can't have admiration. I mean, you have to pick and choose which emotions that you choose, and that's a big word, Mark, you choose to allow into your mind on a daily basis, because if you can put the 7 or 8 or 9 positive emotions that I talk about in the book and oust the negative ones as much as possible, that's going to open your mind to be curious, to be spontaneous, to be creative in thinking about this brochure that is your life. If you walk around with the wrong emotions, you can't even get out of the starting gate, because you just won't allow yourself to think, man, I could have a great life.
Yeah, I mean, I think I see the same thing on the financial planning side of things, where you think it's just about numbers and doing this here, but emotions and beliefs come into it way more, just as much, if not more, and it's things that they've built up over time. And like you said, you're trying to focus on the positive ones, push the negative ones aside, and it's tough to do.
It's one of the earliest things I do in the course, because if I can't clear your mind, I can't get the best out of it.
Yeah.
When you're looking inward at this camera, which is your brain, just like Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. I mean, these guys were all guys that had huge cameras in their head that they could look at and kind of like picture things. If you're walking around with doubt, maybe low self-esteem, or I can't do attitude, you're never going to get out of the gate with that stuff. So being able to take the power of vision, which we all have already, by the way. This is not like you need to go out and find this and download the app, okay? Everybody that's listening to what you're saying, what we're talking about right now, I'm sure that we've all planned a vacation before. And, I'm talking about down to the nitty-gritty, right? Down to the beach, the sandals, the T-shirt, the bathing suit, the radio, the drink, the towel, the suntan lotion, in the magazine, everything. You plan those things in awesome detail, and then you sit back and you can't wait to do this, and you look forward to them in 3 to 6 months, right? Well, we should be doing this with our entire life. You should be looking forward to all these things, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 16 months, or 6 years, because anticipation, in my mind, this is just me speaking, anticipation is the only way to live, is to wake up and constantly look forward to multiple things.
Yeah, there's a funny, I don't know if it's a quote, but they say people spend more time planning for a 1-week vacation than they do for their financial future. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
But so I hear you have another book in the works. What is that one on a similar topic or something different?
Well, Blue Collar Cash was made for the end user, okay, for someone who says, okay, I'm going to plan my life the way I want it, and then I'm going to go out into the world and find a way to make these things happen for myself. The next one, we're toying with the title called Cool Boss, Blue Collar Rules for a White Collar World. And with that book, we're trying to get people to understand that, culture is a real thing now. You can't just kind of like half-ass culture like you could 10, 15, 20 years ago. The era of me boss, you employee kind of thing, that doesn't work anymore. So this book is going to teach you how to find a cool boss, which is someone that's interested in your future first and their business second. And it'll teach bosses how to be a cool boss, to attract those kind of people. Because the true path towards success and scale and growth is intrapreneurship, the attitude and the mindset of intrapreneurship. And this is, not everyone's going to want to take the risk to go out and buy 40 dump trucks like I did. But there are people that really want to have power and control and vision and that kind of stuff within your organization that maybe don't want to take all that risk. You need to seek to find those people, pour fertilizer on them, and get them within your organization, because that's the way you're truly going to grow your company in the future, and that's what that next book's about.
We do at my company a book club every month where we pick a book, we all read it, and then we kind of talk about it as a podcast episode. So that book sounds great. Maybe it's something we'll pick for an upcoming episode. Yeah,
absolutely. I would actually, what we did is we started, because I've been doing this for years here, we started with Blue Collar Cash, and now we're going into the Cool Boss one, which is really kind of a neat twist. Because you need the end user to buy in, and then you need the people at the top to say, okay, how do I promote that type of atmosphere? So kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, Ken, that's all the questions I have for you today. I want to thank you for joining me on this episode. Before we close, how best can listeners learn more about you or grab a copy of the book?
Well, they can go to kenrusk.com, and they can see where the book is there and the course is there. They can also go to all the buy buttons, Amazon and iBooks, Barnes & Nobles, all those typical places. Your local bookstores, don't forget those. But and you can also see me at Ken Rusk Official on all my socials, and you'll kind of see what we're up to there as well.
Great. We'll link to all that in the resource section of the show notes. Thanks again, Ken, and thank you to everyone who tuned in today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Don't forget to follow the Agent of Wealth on the platform you listen from and leave us a review of the show. We're currently accepting new clients, and if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one consultation with our advisors, please do so at bautisfinancial.com/call.
Thank you for listening to the Agent of Wealth podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered represents the views and opinions of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Bautis Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional financial planning and investment advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investments and financial planning.